Okay.
So as
Well,
always, let's take a moment to settle in and let's acknowledge the presence, the divine presence that is actually the only thing going on in all reality.
we'll get
Can
it in a minute.
feel that presence in our bodies, in how we notice sensations, can feel the temperature of the air against our skin, we can notice our thoughts. This is all God expressing as feeling, as thought. There is only one presence, one power, one love active in our lives, God the good, omnipotent. And in that spirit, we're going to ask Lillian to share with us our daily word.
Okay, which is divine order. When my life and all life is in divine order. When I encounter delays and setbacks, or the world is changing in ways I find unsettling, my life may feel chaotic, even out of control. Even though I know divine order underlies all things, it doesn't always feel that way. I remind myself that order is a spiritual truth, always present. I don't need to pray for it, even work toward it. I need only affirm it and trust it is unfolding, especially when I see no evidence of it. I pray not to invoke divine order, but to bolster my awareness of it. I affirm divine order and feel comforted and assured of God's presence in and through all things. As I return my attention to the world around me, I discover evidence of order everywhere I look. And from Luke 12, he said to his disciples, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear."
Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you.
My life and all life is in divine order. Let's affirm that together. My
My
life
life
and
and
all
all
life
life
is in
is
divine
in
order.
divine order.
Pretty cool. Thank you.
Really cool.
All right. So we finished our statement of faith study last week, and we're ready to move on to what the Unity people who put this correspondence course together called the advanced course. So we began a year ago in January, a year ago last month, with their study of the basic course, which had 8 lessons. And now we're in the advanced course, which has 12 lessons. So gosh knows what part time of 2027 we will finish this. But if you're up for it, I'm up for it too. But before we get started with that, I just want to ask if there's any reflections that anybody has of our study of the statement of faith, the work that we did over the past month and a half. Just to give a last opportunity, or not having to be the last opportunity, but an opportunity for any further sharing.
I would like to comment. I've been reading this introduction, and I found it striking that we were doing the faith thing all the time. It's just a preparation for this lesson, in my idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Austin and Gretchen.
Good morning.
We're just getting started, so welcome. Okay, well, if there isn't anything else, I thought it would be fun to read this introduction to this lesson. So the lesson's called The True Character of God. And but Mark Hicks, who is our host here on the Truth Unity website, has written a little introduction about it. And I thought it might be useful as a setup And to help us get back into reading the lessons that we read this, I think it's 5 or 6 paragraphs. So who would be willing to, let's see, read the first couple of paragraphs?
I'll do it.
Thank you very much.
Introduction to the true character of God. As you read the true nature of God, consider its theology. Christian theology is the systematic study of an everywhere present, all-knowing, and all-powerful God as a trinity of 3 persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Fillmores not only affirm the Trinity, but actually provide an explanation of the Trinity that can be comprehended by modern people. More important, they also show how modern people can perceive God as an ever-present reality, active in our life in a personal way. As a people of faith, we are encouraged to seek an understanding of our faith. Faith is rooted in trust, and trust is difficult when we do not understand. It is our God-given privilege to ask questions and to seek answers. This lesson and the 5 lessons which follow are about faith-seeking understanding, about faith-seeking what we can trust about our true beliefs. The Church's provision for faith-seeking understanding is theology, the study of God. Recognizing that no theology arises out of a vacuum, the Church has acknowledged 3 sources for its doctrines: revelation, to the Church and through Scripture, reason, and human experience. These sources have served their purpose. Catholics can draw from Church tradition, Protestants can draw from the Bible, scholastics and Enlightenment thinkers can draw from reason, and extensionalists and postmoderns can draw from human experience. The Fillmores also asked questions, difficult questions. They wanted to know why people were not healthy, why they hunger, why they can't get along. They found the theological answers of the day, the answers given by the Church, to be insufficient. And so do we. Our questions and our lives deserve more than it's a paradox, or it is God's will. The Fillmore's answers were found in metaphysics, a framework for understanding the cosmos in which we live, move, and have our being. The answers they found in metaphysics also provided a deep understanding of the providence of God, how God's attention, presence, and power are the true reality. The answers in this lesson tell us how we can comprehend and how we can trust that the transcendent God, a God beyond time and space, can be present and active in our world, a world so filled with problems and pain. The list of terms used in this lesson can be overwhelming. Science, power, presence, ideas, forms, substance, intelligence, life, and many others. A good way to begin is to place the terms in ordered sentences that show how they are related. For example, lampje. God's science can be known by the observation and study of divine ideas. This science is the study of God's intelligence. Lampje. God's omnipotence is the power to manifest ideas as substance shaped by forms. God has shared this power with humankind, God's image and likeness. This power is God's life shared with humankind. Lampje. God's omnipresence can be felt and understood in our observations of manifestations in our world. The substance and forms of these manifestations show God's presence everywhere. The key to understanding these terms is found in our mind and the state of our mind, our consciousness. Always remember Hypatia Hasbrook's great affirmation: my mind and the mind of God are one. We should, as Myrtle Fillmore advised, go into the silence, or as Charles Fillmore referred to it, go to the headquarters. God talks to us in our mind. If we seek and ask, God will provide spiritual understanding. You want to go to the chart?
Sure. You're on a roll, Leo.
I am. The chart is taken from Greg W. Nettler's Unity Statement of Faith, senior minister and founder of the Unity Church Universal, located at 9th and Tracy in Kansas City, where Charles and Myrtle Fillmore worshipped and worked from 1906 until moving to Unity Farm in the 1930s. Reverend Greg has provided permission for a reprint of this book, which should be available in 2026. And now we have a beautiful chart.
All right, so we're not going to go into the chart because it is referred to as we get into the details, but it is a unity statement of Trinity, and we'll come back to this. So, thank you, Leo. Any thoughts or comments on what Leo shared with us about the introduction of the way to read this particular lesson?
Well, I read this part several times, and the last time I got stuck at Job, and then I dived into Job. It's one of my favorites, so I love that. It reminded me of something that a friend of me said to me many years ago. He said, "You seek what you find." And because seekers is mentioned here many times, and I found out in the last years that I don't need to seek, it's right in front of me. The moment I seek, I overlook what is right in front of me in the here and now. So yeah, that's my first remark on that. Any other ideas?
Thanks,
Thank
Leo.
you.
Well, you remind me what my mentor Ken Wilber said very similarly. If we seek something, we imply that it's not ours.
Agree.
If it's already present, there's nothing to seek because we already got it.
True.
But it is still a challenge or an opportunity of consciousness to become aware of that which is already present is what I'm working on.
Well, I've been attending the lectionary a lot, and I found out that I could understand what was presented in the lectionary by finding occurrences in my personal life that I could map one to what was being addressed in those biblical texts. So I find things on my path while going, and sometimes it's just in store, waiting to be discovered, uncovered.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I would turn it just around. Here it is said that we should find experiences, and I think we have experience all the time that we can look back on from a different perspective. And we can see we are on the right path all the time. We are all the time on the right path. And each of us is on the right path all the time.
That's because my life and all life is in divine order.
Amen.
Well said. Anybody else? Any other comments before we start the text?
I have a question.
Yes, Janet.
Did Leo read anything in that text? Thank you, Leo. That explains why they consider this an advanced course. Why does this start a section that's called advanced? What is different about this from what we read in the previous 6?
Good question.
My comment would be there is a lot of catechese. I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but in Dutch it is catechese, or spreading interpreted doctrine to people.
I don't know. What's that, Janet, in your experience, what's the difference between undergrad and grad school?
Hmm.
You
Well,
get more.
undergrad is sort of an overview of lots of things, and then you figure out what you're interested in and you get going with that. So it's a bigger amount of information on things that might not interest you at all. And then you move on into something that you really are interested in learning more about.
So maybe that's a model here.
You remember that Jesus said to his disciples, "You are fishermen of men." So the undergrad is casting the wide net, and then the next grade is the more inner circle.
Hauling in the net and examine what we found.
Time will tell. I get it.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we commence the lesson? Okay. Who would read? So now we're starting lesson 7 or series 2, lesson 1, as he's got it here. Lesson for the nature of God. Who would read the first couple paragraphs for us?
I will.
All right, Leo, someone else just volunteered.
I know. I hear.
Who was it?
Maybe it was me.
All
I'm
right.
not sure. We
Thank
did it
you.
at the same time. So, lesson for the nature of God. And this section is aspects of the nature of God. Explain God as principle. 1. The science taught in these lessons is founded on spirit. Spiritual science is truly eternal, unlike the ever-changing facts of the intellectual sciences, which often are based primarily on appearances. Spiritual science is the one true science, and it does not change. All who are seeking truth accept this premise, but before one can understand it, he must be consciously in spirit, for the things of God are spiritually discerned. And the quote from Job 32:8, there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty giveth them understanding.
Yeah.
More or stop?
Let's do number 2, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
It is not necessary that one be fully aware of his spiritual nature or his spiritual identity before he begins the study of spiritual science. One's consciousness is quickened by truth, and if these lessons are studied faithfully, the living word of truth that is in them will enter into one's mentality and will quicken the faculty of understanding. And there's one of those little numbers, meaning there's a annotation, I suppose.
Right. And that's note number 1. The faculty of understanding is one of the 12 powers. Okay. All right. Thank you, Janet. As always, there's a few interesting assertions here. What do we think? What do we hear? What do we read? What do we question?
I had a hard time reading this. And,
Okay.
it had all to do with seeking and what is just in front of our nose. And I jumped to Job 32 and I read it. And maybe I didn't understand it, but it had indeed there was a talk about understanding, but there was also talk about seniority. And it said something like that there were many people were assembled and who was right. And at the end, Job said, whatever you're saying, I'm following my own way. So
because the breath of God of the Almighty would give him the understanding.
Exactly.
Right.
And sorry. It reminded me of the principle of God as it is mentioned in the Islam and with the Jewish traditions, where it is said you cannot name God, you cannot characterize God, you cannot describe the nature of God. That's absolutely impossible, and you shouldn't do that. And also somewhere in the Old Testament it says you should not make a picture of God. So I'd rather circumambulate around it, not trying to make any picture at all. So, but that's
Sure.
why I have a bit of a problem with this text.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments?
Well, I'm coming at it cold because I still have vacation brain and I didn't read it ahead of time. But it feels like
Either did I, Sydney.
but it feels like these first two phrases here, they seem to be um, stage setting with a little bit of comfort. Don't 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 worry that you don't know everything yet, or maybe that's what I'm reading into it because I'm giving myself that comfort. Um, you don't have to be fully aware of all of these things that we're going to teach you before you dive in. This is graduate school. You've had the structure in undergrad, and now we're gonna get into the details and don't worry about not knowing everything before we do, because have faith, it'll come.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney, for the way you explained that. I loved it because this has been followed me my whole life that if I didn't understand everything completely about what I was just signed up to learn, I would think I was stupid and I didn't know what I was doing. And I read in this, and all through this course, I say just listen and wait, and it'll be revealed. You don't have to know anything to be a child of God. And but I like the way Sydney explained that. You don't have to know in advance if you've signed up to take the course. So thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Yeah, may I tell a story about that? When I
Yes.
was in high school, freshman year in high school, I was privileged to go to the Jesuit high school in Detroit, and they assign you what you're going to study. So they assigned me German, and I was excited to learn German because my father's side of the family came from Germany, and so I thought that'd be really cool. And the very first class we had, Father Pilot, I will never forget, he walked into the classroom and he began speaking to us in German. And he acted out what he was saying. And what I remember is I didn't know, I couldn't translate the words one on one, and I could get a sense of what he was talking about. That his method, the method of his madness, was essentially throw everybody into the deep end.
Immersion.
Exactly. Speak the language to give us a sense of the spirit. That's what paragraph number one, it's the spirit. And don't worry about the technology or the technique. Don't worry about the technical. Don't worry about direct translation, one-on-one, word to word, but to get a sense of the accessibility or the approachability of the subject matter. So, for example, this sentence here, it says, all who are seeking the truth accept the premise that it's a spiritual science, but before we can understand it, we must be consciously in spirit, for the things of God are spiritually discerned. So I kind of read that in the same kind of like, in order to understand German, I'm going to have to discern things in the German language. or I'm going to have to learn the art of translation. So the way I read this paragraph is we're being put on alert that the old ways of understanding, that is what we're used to, the intellectual sciences, will not apply here, and that we're going to now move into a spiritual studying environment. And as Sydney, as you picked up, and the very next paragraph says, but don't worry, you don't have to know what this means yet, because we're going to walk you through it. We're going to figure it out together. Because here's this beautiful assertion: our consciousness is quickened by truth. And if we study our lessons faithfully, the living word of truth in them will enter into our mentality and will quicken this faculty of understanding. So I don't know if that's a bit of a convoluted way of saying we'll be on a faith walk.
Good.
Anything else that jumps out at you or that you question? Yeah, Gretchen.
Yeah, thank you. My sense is that we are to see God, and we are to know God, and we are to experience God. It's just not going to come through the five senses in that way. And when I hear the words about not using, not naming God, not creating any image of God, we were given five senses by God. And I think that it's kind of like saying, if I say it right now, don't think of an elephant. My guess is that somebody, at least including myself, they had a picture of an elephant in their mind. I think our job is to not be attached to what the five senses are registering as God, and to go deeper into the energy of God. And that only comes by spirit. And I loved what Charles Fillmore said. I had not heard that before, about going to headquarters. That is just so beautiful and brilliant. When I think about the quarters of the head, and in my father's house has many mansions, just like all of what it means to go all the way indoors and close the door, and prayerfully wait with true expectation that we will be shown. And I think that will happen as we read through these pages. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Yeah.
My experience of where I find myself now, reading this, is that I can recognize that I have come to where they're pointing here. And several years ago, I decided to teach what I knew at the time. I was a drug and alcohol counselor working in the jails to the inmates, and share my experience of my recovery with them. And when I made that decision, I don't know what I was thinking. It was like I had a set of information. Now it's been 20 years later that my decision to teach led me to a deeper, broader understanding of myself. And I'll find myself in a facilitating place and listening to what I'm saying. So that's my experience of being connected to that source, because I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. I'm hearing myself say this. And the word seek, um, in my mind, focus. What is my focus? What do I want? What am I focused on? One of the things I focused on is to know the Christ impulse. What that felt like meant, because I had no idea. It's like so. Um, that's okay. I think I'm done.
Beautiful.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Anybody else? Then who will, thank you. Then who will read 3 and 4?
I'm happy to read.
Thank you.
3. The very foundation of truth is right understanding of God. Everyone has some idea of a being who is supreme. This idea is often very indefinite, and many persons would have difficulty in expressing it. Let us ask ourselves definitely what I'm sorry, my
All
eyeballs
right.
aren't working. What God is to us, what our idea of him is. 4. The concept of God as a large, powerful man seated on a throne far away is erased when spiritual understanding illumines the mind. Jesus said, God is a spirit. Divine mind and spirit are virtually the same. If we know about mind, we know about spirit or God. We perceive that the whole universe is moved by one immanent intelligence and power. Realizing that God is the omnipotent mind, we have a principle for a philosophy that will answer every question that we ask.
And let's go check note number 2. The very foundation of truth is right understanding of God. The goal of studying truth is not knowledge, but understanding. Ooh,
Oh,
not knowledge, but understanding. Okay, just yet another curveball thrown here by the writers.
Well, knowledge means knowing on the ledge. Yeah. And it's not doing anything. So I think it's active wisdom, what we're
Okay.
talking.
Okay. So thanks for reading that, Sydney. Any reaction to these two paragraphs?
I'm still thinking about them.
Okay.
I had an idea this afternoon, and that is, if I look at all of you, you are all in me and more. And that is how I can experience God.
Okay.
I think it would be a lot. I've always had trouble with the idea that everybody refers to everything as God, and it would seem to me that it would be much better if all the religions and everything else referred to it as divine mind or as spirit, because then you don't have to have this separation. The terminology of God, and everybody prays to God, and it's as I've expressed from time to time, uh, I'd almost like for us to get rid of that terminology of God. And I guess this is in a way of helping us understand that and shed that vision.
I like that.
And say more, Veldon, if you will, about the difficulty of the using the word God as opposed to spirit or mind.
Share more. Well, anytime anybody speaks of God, I think of, and when I was in school, there was a big picture in the classroom, and it was probably George Washington. But, uh, you know, everybody uses the term God, and so the connotation is when they use that terminology is that there is a separate being. There's somebody up there. He's going to take care of everything. And when we separate that and look at it as divine mind, and I've often described the terminology of God as like if you imagine that it's a huge pie, and we're all an ingredient in that pie, and we're all connected because of that. And that essentially is what's divine mind and spirit really is. It's like by pie.
And it's delicious.
Hopefully.
Not so much.
Okay, thanks, Veldon.
Did I confuse everybody?
Not me.
Anybody else? 3 and 4.
Maybe again, it's more stage setting, dispensing with the concept of God as other, God as out there, God as the man on the throne.
Sure.
Well, you have to think about how all of this came to us, all the writings and everything else. You can go back so far back to Jesus' presence here, and then somebody is reporting what took place. And if you look at all of mankind, all different tribes and so forth had a vision of God. The Indians did. And, if you study some of the things the Indians did, they essentially got into the same spirit, but they called it something different.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Gretchen?
Yeah, thank you. I loved what you said, Belden. And, I was thinking about the faculty of understanding, and returning to the 12 faculties. That's Thomas. And Thomas is a dual-minded person, and it takes that moment of presence of truth in order for Thomas to take the duality of his consciousness and singularly focus it on Jesus, and as he returns in the upper room, and he needed to feel it and experience it and be with it in order for that to come into a sense of truth. So I like that in number 2, that sets up number 3, about that living the word of truth that's in them will enter into one's mentality and will quicken the faculty of understanding.
Yeah, thanks, Gretchen. And you make me think of the actual Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus says, when you can make the two into one, and the upper and the lower as the same, you'll enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
Paragraph 3, where it says everyone has some idea of a being who is supreme. That paragraph says a lot.
Okay, so you want to say more about the lot?
No, I think I've said enough.
Okay.
Get the hook.
I'd like to add to that, Velden. What about intermediaries? I know I've been studying this text this last week, and I was looking at how, for instance, the Catholic Church looked at intermediaries, and I believe the current Pope said, no way that woman can ever be priest. Okay, we have that Holy Mary, and we give her that, but woman cannot be priest. I say, how is that? And imagine Myrtle and Charles. Let's say, after they pass on, if they grow more and they are here present in spirit, they will convey us their perspectives. They are part of that being. Just an idea.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who will read number 5?
Do it. People sometimes say God as spirit seems cold and abstract. Is there no personal God? When we understand and realize that God as spirit is individualized in man, the abstract concept gives way to an indwelling, concrete identity that seems personal, but has none of the limitations of personality. God is not a personality in the sense of being in any way apart from man's own self. Anything is personal when it is one's own possession. God is personal to us when we become aware of him as the Father mind or Christ mind within us and turn to it as our counselor, guide, and friend. God is to us whatever we conceive him to be. When we learn the essential nature of power, good, and then,
Or you skipped a line there.
thank you. When we learn the essential nature of God, absolute good, through becoming acquainted with him in our mind, when we learn that God is wisdom, love, power, and good, then we will produce experiences of wisdom, love, and goodness. Jesus so fully recognized and acknowledged this presence and power that he could say, I and the Father are one. That's from John 10:30. And he that hath seen me hath seen the Father. John 14:9.
Thanks, Gail. Another paragraph. Oh, let's see. What's the note there? The note says on personality, to know God is to have a personal relationship with God. Okay. I don't know if that clarifies. That doesn't clarify anything for me, but okay.
Well, I found this exactly a bit odd because talking about person, I think the Latin word persona means mask or perspective, and no way you can talk about personality, not even about the ones present here right now. We can talk about individuality, and in that I would rather go for allness and eachness. I would prefer that approach. Allness and eachness.
Yeah. That's very Eric Butterworth. Thank you,
Wow.
Leo.
I think a good steal, Marty.
Solomon, get ready. We're going to go.
Anybody else?
50 minutes to get something to eat. Some breakfast.
One of the things that jumped into mind, Leo, based on what you just said, is the thing I've come to understand is that the notion of personhood, who am I, is essentially a mental construct. I am who I believe myself to be. And so if that's true, then the question becomes, why do I believe myself to be this limited bag of skin and bone with this particular series of experiences when I also am the eachness of the allness?
I think it's in Genesis, Marty.
Yeah, it pervades the whole Bible. And in fairness to human beings, so AKA in fairness to myself, this is developmentally and evolutionarily the way we are created. We are created without consciousness at the beginning. For the first 4 years of human life, the ability to reflect upon ourselves has not wakened up yet. And so the challenge here and the opportunity is the awakening And that's partly what drove me to unity, is that unity recognized, as I like to say endlessly, that this is about the development of consciousness, the awareness. If there's only God, and I don't have the experience that there's only God, that doesn't change the fact that there's only God. And it doesn't change the fact that the I-ness of me, is also the I-ness of God. It just means that in this experience of this, what does it say here? We're individualized versions of God. In the individualized version of God that is Marty, the Marty doesn't have this experience yet, or he doesn't have it consistently. But that doesn't change the nature. It doesn't change that observation that is quoted here, that Jesus had to say, I and the Father are one. Other thoughts? Then let's finish this. Well, it's not finished. Never mind. Let's finish this section. Who will read paragraph number 6? Bless you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Number 6. God is individualized in each one of us as inspiration, life, strength, wisdom, power, and love, and any good we can conceive. To know God in this personal way, we need to get very still, to withdraw our attention from everything in the outer and direct it within us, centering it near our heart. Then we can repeat quietly and confidently, Thou only. Thou only, knowing that we are speaking to the Father within us, and we feel His loving, quickening presence. We come to realize that we are not alone, and that God is not a cold, abstract principle too far away to have loving compassion for us. We find that He is near us, even within us, loving more than earthly parents love their offspring. Closer is He than breathing, and nearer than hands and feet. Tennyson, The Higher Pantheism.
Thanks, Leo.
Number 4, His loving, quickening presence. God as principle is a loving, compassionate presence.
Thank you. Thoughts?
I'm getting more and more the feeling that I can love my enemy
Why is that?
because of this text. Because everyone inspires me.
Okay.
I'm looking at God as principle, as a living, compassionate presence. Essentially, when you're going within this silence, and then you're realizing that you are all of these things, and that God is loving and so forth. Well, what if an individual doesn't feel that he is loved? That's all within himself. And you get back to, you can't fix stupid.
Yeah. Even stupid is divine, though.
And I just want to underscore what Leo said, and I think this all relates when I do focus on that concept of oneness, and that is what this paragraph is saying to me. God is individualized in me. He's individualized in everyone. He's individualized in my enemies that may be unconscious in them, or in some, at times I'm unconscious. But that doesn't mean that we're not still each divine love. And it makes it easier for me to find my compassion for my enemies or others who find themselves in behaving in ways that could be described as unconscious, or when I behave in those ways.
Well, especially if I might add to that, when I learn compassion for the enemies in my own head,
Oh, bravo.
the enemy, that the voice that says, "What's wrong with you, you stupid jerk? Why did you do that? Who do you think you are?"
Yep.
I can, if I can learn to befriend, no, as I learn to befriend those voices, then everything shifts because life is lived from the inside out. I'll also begin to see that outside of me differently.
I've been listening to some of the teachings of Napoleon Hill, and
Yeah.
what he repeats every time is momentum, momentum, momentum. And how I see that is if I have opposition, then I can decide to create a counterforce. And those two forces together create something. They certainly make me stop with whatever I'm doing at that moment. And at that time, I can make a decision. Relive the past or make a prophecy about the future or make a complete new idea in the here and now, immediate.
AKA being the creator of your own life.
And having those momentums because we have those adversaries. And in a way, a meeting is a meeting of individualized people that have their own progression, that they have all already proven themselves so that they are on a specific direction. And when you are in communion, you find there are differences. And those are very beneficial in my idea.
Sure. Thank you.
When you go about your day-to-day activities, you're not really in the consciousness of spirit. And if you think we're interacting with all sorts of situations and people, and some things. A good example, I went to get a battery for my car, and in the process of getting it out of the back of my car, I lost my balance and fell. And there were two guys there to pick me up immediately. And there is that. But then you get into the situation when I go into the store, and the guy that I had talked to before was not there. It was a different shift, and I found immediately I was a little bit annoyed that I couldn't talk to the person. So the reaction to other people, I should have gone into the store, and whoever came up to help me, I should have been perfectly willing and totally in the spirit with them. And we just don't do that on a day-to-day basis. It's those special times when we are doing like we're doing this morning and prayer time and concentration that we do that. But that's almost minuscule, and I think for most of us.
Okay. Anything else before we wrap up? We have a few more minutes. I think in the spirit of what Sydney said earlier about this being introductory material, I just draw our attention to the fact that we're being asked to consider this sentence here is essential to know God in this personal way. We need to get very still, withdraw our attention from everything in the outer, and direct it within us. This is that going to headquarters thing that we noted a few minutes ago. And part of it is there's a principle to the work that John and I do. We say the quality of my life is determined by the focus of my attention. So when we focus our attention to the inner chamber, as Emily Cady called it, then we have the ability to focus on God. Now, I assert we can focus on God even when we go to the store and the guy that we talk to isn't there.
Yep.
But it takes this practice first before I can do that well.
Amen.
Yeah. And that's the challenge, isn't it? I mean, how do we remember in the moment when we're in the grocery store line or in a challenging situation at the office or with family, just to remember, get that, just to
John,
wake up in the moment.
that's the key question, Sydney.
Yeah, I create an intent. I don't go anywhere without intent, especially get behind the wheel. I intend to be a defensive driver. I intend to be gracious. My intent when I go in the store is to be kind and courteous and to make the cashier laugh.
That's a
So
You'll have to teach us how.
well, I got a corny joke that makes them laugh every time.
Oh, tell it.
Why did the old man fall in the well?
Why?
He didn't see that well.
Oh. Okay.
But well, that's a great note to end our time together on, John. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I believe that Sydney's question is a powerful question, and one we will keep coming back to in the course of this advanced course. That's why this is advanced, my friends. So with this, we will wrap up with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Blessings.
For that laugh.
Bye,
Take care,
all.
everybody.
Take care.
Okay.